Hey, good morning and welcome to Over the Target. And thanks so much for being here this morning. A really terrific and important show with a dear friend, a great reporter, great writer, political commentator, author, and correspondent for American Greatness. And that is the great Julie Kelly. Julie, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Lee. Thanks as always for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, one of the things we have so much to speak with you about this morning, and only half an hour, so we're going to try to jam everything in. But look, you've been covering the Matthew Graves issue, and of course, Matthew Graves is the U.S. attorney in Washington D.C. He's the federal prosecutor in charge of all these different cases against pro-Donald Trump American dissidents. If you can explain a little bit about Graves and also what's been going on with Capitol Hill and Marjorie Taylor Greene's actions to push back on the Department of Justice and Graves in particular.
So, Lee, it finally looks like House Republicans really are zoning in on this highly weaponized, partisan, destructive Department of Justice that is targeting the right. It is targeting Trump voters, Trump administration officials, and of course, Donald Trump himself. So you have a special counsel, Jack Smith, who's investigating Donald Trump on two separate criminal matters. And then you have Matthew Graves, who is the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He was appointed by Joe Biden. He took over what is arguably the most politically charged U.S. Attorney's office in the country, which is pretty hard to do. But he has since accelerated the criminal investigation into American citizens who protested Joe Biden's election. There is nothing about this investigation and prosecution that has anything to do with the rule of law or due process or protecting the rights of American citizens. To the contrary, those rights are being trampled in real time with no pushback from federal judges, and now Graves getting the deserved scrutiny, long overdue scrutiny that he requires. So he testified before the House Oversight Committee on Tuesday morning and had to answer for not just this criminal prosecution of Trump supporters, but also at the same time, while he is allowing Washington, D.C., I know used to be a favorite city of yours, mine as well, beautiful city that has descended into violent chaos because Matthew Graves, who also handles local crime, refuses to prosecute roughly 2/3 of the cases brought to him by local police. He's declining to prosecute that so he can fixate on continuing to round up Trump supporters and prosecute them for mostly low-level nonviolent misdemeanor offenses.
So, if you can fill us in, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess, is the one who's really sort of leading the charge. And I'm happy to hear, by the way, that because you and I have spoken about this a lot, that the Republican Party has not been particularly active right now. There's been a lot of hortatory rhetoric about what we're going to do with the deep state and all these different people doing bad things. But we haven't seen a lot of evidence. We haven't seen a lot of action. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, however, has been one of the people who's been out there. So what is she doing right now, especially regarding Matthew Graves?
So this week, and she confronted Matthew Graves directly. And she confronted him about this criminal prosecution and also what he's doing in Washington, D.C. And she issued a resolution to impeach Matthew Graves and also to impeach FBI Director Christopher Wray. So to your point, Lee, the base is frustrated at all of these letters and hearings. But what is the actionable outcome? And the fact that you can make criminal referrals, there'll be DOA at this Department of Justice, but the power of the purse and the power of the pulpit and the impeachment power, Republicans need to exercise. So this is a good first step by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is great because it's one of the things that we knew was going to happen going into this session of Congress. That in spite of the fact it's a GOP-led Congress with a Democratic-led Senate and with a Democratic administration, they weren't going to pass legislation. So what did they have to do? they were going to have to underscore and put a very fine point and present to the American public evidence of Biden administration corruption and what corrupt institutions like the Department of Justice and the FBI have been doing to Americans, how they've been targeting at least the country. And we're going to go into that in much more detail. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, please make the jump to Epoch TV exclusively. We're going to be on making the jump for less than a minute. Make the jump. You don't want to miss a single second, because we're going to go into much more important detail here. And we're going to explain what's really happening with our great guest, Julie Kelly.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready?
Caitlin Collins was clearly given a mission to do everything she could to humiliate and ruin Donald Trump.
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
It's like this situation was handed to him on a silver platter. He wielded the situation so well to his own advantage, and he ends up coming out looking like the good guy.
What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not.
Some figures on the right who are wondering if a lot of this stuff isn't staged by the Democrats to help Donald Trump win the nomination.